It's the Locked On Flyers podcast for Monday, February 10th, your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high quality content that feels like it's pretty good to beat the Pens on your last game before the break.
But then there's no hockey, or at least NHL hockey.
You're Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, and thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen every day. I am Rachel Donner. I've been podcasting about the Flyers, the NHL, and hockey for a decade. I'm here with prospect expert and Flyers credentialed reporter for 19 years, Russ Cohen. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. To keep up with our latest episodes and Flyers news, you can find us at Locked On Flyers on all your favorite socials. And of course, here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Andrei Kuzmenko and Jakob Pelletier are finally in Philadelphia, as we saw partway through the Caps game, but they actually got to skate. We're going to talk more about that, their first practice, and transactions and injuries and all that a little bit later in the show. But this win over Pittsburgh going into the Four Nations break, I think, obviously it ended the winless streak, which was, I think, really important to do before the break, right?
Yeah, you always want to go into a break on with a better mental capacity, just feeling better about things. So that's the way to do it.
Yeah, and I think, obviously without Crosby in the game,
And
there's a little bit,
Malkin
and well, yeah,
and
we knew
Russ.
about Malkin
No, I
though.
know.
Like we knew about all those guys. Like
Yeah.
Crosby was a game time decision, so
Yes.
that was kind of a bummer, just because it's always fun to
Oh, yeah.
it amps the crowd up when he's
It
in the
does.
game,
No question.
right?
It
So
heightens
I
it.
think it does. It absolutely does. So it was kind of a bummer to miss out on that aspect of it, but nonetheless, I think it was a really interesting game because the
A
Flyers kind
weird
of came
game. It was a weird one.
one of the weirdest games we've had in a long time, right?
Yeah.
So the Flyers came out swinging
Mhm.
essentially in the first 5 to 7 minutes of the
Yeah.
game, and then all of a sudden it was just all Pens all the time.
Right. It leveled off. The Flyers couldn't create shots for some reason.
Mm.
And look, I understand that you don't have the personnel that you want yet in the lineup, but shot creation, no matter who's in there, there's always a team strategy on how to do it. And it just seemed like it got lost. And I think that's why John looked upset on the bench. He was not happy this game.
No, and he seemed very short at
He
post game
was.
as well,
Yeah.
and just in terms of being very matter of fact, I would say.
Right.
He wasn't mean or
No,
snippy.
but he
He's
wasn't
just
happy. You could
matter of the
tell.
fact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could see this wasn't the brand of hockey he wanted them to play. They got to win, but this isn't what he wanted to see.
Right. And you look at, obviously, Flyers did not get shots on goal in this one. High danger chances for in the game were 23-6 Pittsburgh, which
Crazy.
is not great. Pens had 51 scoring chances. That's a lot.
That's a
That is
lot.
a lot.
No, it's a lot. And we give credit to Sam Ersson. He had a terrific game, and that
Yeah.
was a big reason they held on at the end. I mean, they did. There's no other way to say it.
Not just the end, huge
Yeah.
sections of that game. And, I felt like, for him at least, I think it's really good. He had two absolutely tremendous games in a row. And I think
Yeah.
going into a break, that's good, especially now he gets to bum around with Team Sweden on Four
Right.
Nations.
Right.
Probably won't play, but based on those last two games,
Well, that's Markstrom's, Markstrom's
yeah.
hurt. But, I will say this. I understand the enthusiasm on the broadcast, but Gustafson's having a better year. He
Yeah,
is the guy.
totally.
I mean, we all know this.
Totally. And with Omar being back, those are your two guys.
And those are the
right?
two guys, yeah. But it's still great to be on the team, don't get me wrong. But I don't know if he's getting in a game like that talk. There's only 4 games. I don't think
Right.
he'll be lucky.
I don't think so either.
Now, if they win a game 8-0 or something, he might get backup time.
Right. Now, The other aspect of it is that it'll keep him warm, I think, just
Yeah,
keep him practicing
it'll
and
keep him
get,
sharp for sure.
elite level players shooting on him.
Yeah,
And he'll get to kind of relax and be with the Swedes for a while. And I think with the Swedes in particular, there's something that they value about being together that's like different than other
yeah.
teams. And I can't describe to you why, but just the way they talk
Oh,
about
they'll
it
shop
is
together. I
different.
mean, maybe he'll get a purple suit like William Nylander. Who knows?
Oh God. God. Um, in addition, with the Pittsburgh Penguins taking all of those shots and getting 51 scoring chances, that put the Flyers into primo shot blocking mode.
Oh
Which
yeah.
thing, I think if you're gonna block 34 shots in a game, maybe it should be the last one before a 10-day layoff so you can heal up.
Okay, that's a fair point. I guess that's fair.
Put it all out there because you're gonna have time to rest
Some will have
after
time.
that.
There's a
Yes.
few that won't. So, but yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, look, having been around the locker room a little bit the last week, there were players that are definitely looking forward to the break. There were players that are definitely looking forward to just the change, and that gets talked about. They're not going to talk about it, but trust me, it's there.
We did get to see Kuzmenko in action
Hmm.
in this game, not Pelletier. They had to call Jacob Gaucher back up, who, by the way, played in 3 games in 3 days because
Yeah,
of going back down to the Phantoms.
yeah,
But
which
we'll
is
talk
good.
more
Which
about
is good
that
for him.
tomorrow, but
But the one
still.
thing I want to say about Peltier, I'm just confused at a visa because I guess there are like emergency level ones or short term ones because he was able to travel from
Mhm.
Toronto to Philly and he could practice with his employer, but he can't play with his employer. Like I don't understand any of it. And I won't pretend I
Yeah.
do.
No, there's something going on there. I'm sure it'll get resolved in the next few days, or if
Hmm.
it's not already, and
Right.
we'll know for sure soon. But as of our recording, but I will say, it was at least good to see one of those guys. They put him on a line with Lawton and Konechny, which I thought they might have put him on a line with Michkov, and they didn't.
They
And I
didn't
thought that was
because we all
interesting.
wanted them to. That's why they didn't. I mean, let's just say it. I mean, that's the reason.
Yeah,
'Cause that would
although
be
I
the
do,
most logical. No, that would be the most logical because again, it's like
yes.
you you brought in another Russian in there, so why wouldn't you put him with another Russian player who has equal skill level? Well, better, but it's equal right this moment.
Right, and I think they didn't do that for 2 reasons. 1, because of what you're saying, because it's the obvious thing to do.
Right.
But also, I think that they think Michkov has been doing better with Sean Couturier and Abels. I think we looked at that line in the previous game, and they did really well, and I think they wanted to keep that going for at least an additional game, and then wait till Peltier is available, and then figure out the line shuffle. That's my take on
I mean, all I have to say is just throw the fans a bone. You should have put the Russians together.
it.
They could have switched it at
I
some
mean,
point during the
I
game.
don't
Well,
disagree.
here, I mean, let's
I'm
just
just
go.
saying that's the logic.
I know. Let me just go with this logic. When you weren't creating shots, don't you think it would have been good to put the two Russians together to create more offense? Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course it does. Of course it does. Now, Kuzmenko, I think, did build some instant chemistry with Scott Lawton a little bit
Okay.
out there.
For as long
I
as
thought
Scott
that
Lawton's here, but then we'll talk
oh
about that
god.
down the line. It's
Yeah,
rumors, folks, but they're out
I
there.
know. Yeah, that's hopefully another show for another day that's like years in the future, but, not gonna hold my breath on that one. But at any rate, I thought they did a good job at least, like, putting him out there to see what he can do and putting him
Sure.
in different situations, and that was good to see, and I thought he had a pretty solid first game with the Flyers.
I think he had a solid first half of the game. I think he faded a bit in this one. But I think at the first half he looked really good. And then I wasn't noticing him as much. I wasn't seeing as much impact on the game. And I think as the Flyers were sagging, he sagged a little too, which isn't his fault. He's just gotten to this
Yeah,
team.
right. Now, the Flyers didn't really get much of a power play opportunity, it was just a minute and a half because it got canceled, partway through due to, having to, Drysdale having to do that
Right.
breakaway without a stick stop.
Right.
So I think, which was good for him to
Oh
do. I'm
yeah.
glad he
Yeah,
did
yeah,
it.
yeah.
But I thought he had a pretty solid
That
game.
was a good
Uh,
effort for Drysdale for sure. I mean, listen, he needs to put up points, but points aside, he did fine.
Yeah, I thought so
And
too.
they did us a favor by showing us a short power play. No offense to the power play. It's not like they're going to be practicing it over the next 13 days. They won't be.
Right. Now, Michkov got 18 minutes, 20 seconds in this game, which is the right amount of ice
Yes,
time for him to have. So very good to see
that was
that.
good.
And he does, obviously it wasn't as good as the previous game where he scored 2 goals, but at the same time, I thought he had a similar level of energy for most of this game,
He did, and I
which
mean, it
was
was a
good.
shame his breakaway definitely was at the end of a shift,
Oh
and
yeah.
that
Yeah.
affected him. But no, I mean, those are the minutes he should have been getting for the last month. But at least if he's going to get them
Right.
now, that's good.
Yeah, and I would also want to call out Emil Andrae. I thought, in the mid first, there was a potential turnover right in front of the net that he swept away,
That
and
was a
I just
great
thought
play.
I thought his instincts were really good in this game, and I felt like it just felt like one of his more comfortable games at the
Yeah.
NHL
No,
level.
I think that's safe to say, and I think that was a great play. I remember that play and was mentally noted it.
Yeah. So we're going to talk more about Emil Andre and the other borderline guys, what's going on with them. Didn't even talk about the Garnet Hathaway weird goal because it was weird,
It
but
was, and he
the,
knows it. But hey, goal's a goal. You
yeah,
don't get that goal unless you're in position to at least shoot or try and score a goal. So that's good.
yeah, absolutely. And the overturning was a goaltender interference call. It wasn't the initial thought about what was going on with it. So
Right. Right.
there you go. At any rate, a win's a win, and especially against the Pens, you
Yep.
love to see it. We're going to talk more about the weird goings on with the team right now with all this roster stuff, as well as how the new guys are settling in coming up next.
When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on that with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you could stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you could even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. I love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting, whether I'm backing my team for a late-game rally or picking a player to hit a clutch three. I never feel like I missed a chance. Plus, the app's easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
On tomorrow's show, we will be talking about the Lehigh Valley Phantoms. We're going to get started talking about Four Nations. There's a lot to get to on that show. Now, speaking of those very Phantoms, there was a whole bunch of transactions that happened because of having to cover the Pens game and
Right.
then dealing with the Four Nations break. So they did put Anthony Richard on waivers. He cleared, but interestingly did not play Saturday night for
Okay. I
the
mean, he could be
Phantoms.
banged up, or maybe they just felt
You're
like
right.
there was some sort of lineup issue. That's fine.
Yeah. So that happened. And then after the game against Pittsburgh, they officially sent Emil Andre, Rodrigo Abels, and Jacob Gaucher back down to the Phantoms for the Four Nations break. I think, like, obviously, Jacob Gaucher was going to get sent down anyway. And
Of
the
course.
only reason why he played against the Pens was because of the Jakob Pelletier
Right.
visa issue. So that's fine. And him going down to play for the Phantoms for, the next few weeks at least, or maybe for the duration of the season. We'll see. But that's fine. I think, Emil Andre and Rodrigo Abels, that's going to be the interesting question for the two of them, whether or not they'll come back up at the end of the break, because I
Right.
think it'll depend on both Rasmus Ristolainen and Egor Zamula's injury status
Yeah, I
for
think
Emil
so.
Andre, right?
And Ryan Poehling too, right? I mean, so that's
Well, that'll be for Rodrigo Abels. I'm like,
right. I'm just lumping them
for
all in. Yes.
yeah.
And I think so, but there's one thing that didn't happen, and we'd be remiss if we didn't mention Alexei Kolosov did not get sent
Yes.
down. And so this basically feeds right into, we didn't think he really wanted to play in the AHL, and he wants to play in the AHL as little as possible, and that's not good.
Right. am really shocked by that,
I was
especially because
surprised. I thought finally things were smoothed
yeah,
over, but apparently not.
right, because there are absolutely Phantoms games to be played during this break that
Oh
he
yeah,
should be playing
no
in,
doubt.
right? Number 2, as we'll talk more about on tomorrow's show, you know, God bless Keith Petruzzelli for trying, but, like,
Yeah,
what are we doing here?
right.
Parker Gahagan is barely hanging on by a thread. Now he had a good game, we'll talk like, again,
Yeah,
but, like, Kolosov should be playing for the Phantoms.
yeah.
It's
He shouldn't be on
ridiculous.
vacation. It's a bad look, and I don't have a lot of faith in him being with the organization long term now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know how to, like, conspiracy theory this anymore.
I don't think
Like,
you have
it's
to. I think just basically you
yeah,
say he doesn't want to be there over the break. Otherwise, he'd have been sent.
right, and, unfortunately, we got word that Rasmus Ristolainen isn't healed up enough to play in the Four Nations tournament, which is a real bummer, I think, for him personally, and I think he would be an asset to Team Finland, who's,
Oh,
like
it's a big blow
mm,
to Finland. Like they were
yeah,
already they were
yeah,
already against it. Now they're really against it.
I
Up
know.
against it.
So it's real tough for Team Finland, and I'm
It
sure
is.
for him personally. So I'm really upset for him on his behalf.
Oh yeah, you know he wanted to
But
play and represent his country. There's no doubt.
no doubt, and I think on the flip side, hopefully this will allow him time to heal up and
Yeah.
do whatever rehab he needs to, and maybe he'll be ready to go after the break. Maybe not, but I do appreciate him having that time to
Oh
rest.
yeah. Listen, you need it. You need it.
So again, we'll see what happens with Kolosov, but that was weird. And then, as Risto and Zamula goes, so goes Emil Andre, and
Yep.
as Ryan Poehling goes, so goes Rodrigo Abels. And stay tuned for that. But
Or
in the
trades.
mean,
Guys could get traded
oh,
during the Four Nations too. That is a
that is also
possibility.
true. That is also true. So we did get to actually talk to Jakob Pelletier and Andrei Kuzmenko finally, since they were in
Yep.
town. And one of the more interesting things that they talked about in their 7, 8 day layoff from playing hockey is that both guys actually figured out a way to arrange to skate with the Calgary Hitmen uh,
That's good.
while they were still in Calgary. So that was good. They got at least some ice time
Yeah.
uh, while they left. Then they got those unfortunate flight delays. They had them stranded in
Just
Toronto, which is just brutal.
yeah,
Um,
it's just
but
bad.
yeah, so that's why they got there in the second period of the Caps game, and we had all
Right.
those shots of them in the press box there. Now, for Pelletier, I think, like you said, he did practice with the team, but he couldn't play in the
Right.
game for whatever legal reasons
Hey kid,
that
you're legally
are.
allowed to practice, but you can't play till the
But you
papers
can't
are
play.
through.
I don't know. But he mentioned, things that you would expect to hear, like,
Yeah.
good to get a fresh start with a new team there. And one of the things I thought that, a bunch of people mentioned just how outgoing and friendly this guy is and full of
Mhm.
energy he is.
Mhm.
And that he said it was like tough to leave the guys in Calgary, but he's going to make an effort to build those same kind of relationships in Philly. And I believe that from him. He just
Yeah,
seems
sure. I
like
mean, he definitely was well liked
yeah,
in Calgary, and so yeah, that's definitely believable.
yeah, and that it was good to have Sean Couturier and Nick Delorier around as fellow French Canadians to lean on to get the lay of the land. That is a common theme here, I think, with these guys about having cultural support
Yeah, sure. I
to
mean,
make
why?
the
Of course,
adjustment.
that makes you feel better.
Yeah. So he described his game as like being like a dog on a bone. He knows he's not the biggest guy, but he's gonna try and throw some hits and get net front and all of that. Would you agree with that assessment?
To a degree. I think that's what he wants to do and will try to do it. He hasn't been able to do that yet at the NHL level, and he does have speed and he does have a certain amount of skill, but he's not a guy that's really able to make a lot of his own space.
Right.
So, it's going to depend again, he is not a fourth liner. It I just want to say that just because he says those things, he is not a guy that's going to thrive on the fourth line. probably needs to be on the third line if you really want to see what he can do. But if he gets thrown on the fourth line, it's going to make it a little harder for him because he's going to go up against those other bigger players. That's going to make it even tougher for him.
Right. Now, if it was a fourth line centered by Ryan Poehling, injury free, I might
Okay,
disagree with
maybe,
that.
maybe.
But other than that, I
Yeah,
think you're right.
yeah,
I think you're right. For Andrei Kuzmenko, he similarly talked about having, Matvei Michkov on the team to talk to, as well as, Kolosov being around. That's like one good side to having Kolosov around. It's like
right.
another Russian for him to talk to, but that Michkov gave him some good intel on the new teammates in terms of
hmm
style of play. I'm sure other things were talked about, but
I'm sure they were in Russian.
Yes, yes, but I thought it was really cool the way he talked about being there for Michkov's first shift in
Uh-huh.
the KHL ever, and that Datsuk was out there, and how cool that was, and to just enjoy it. Like, that's a
Yeah,
really good story.
that's a good story. Yeah, no doubt. I mean, that's a lot of history there.
I think obviously his English skills are much further advanced than Michkov's
Yeah,
are at this point, but he still struggles a little bit. And part of me, again, conspiracy theory was like fake misunderstanding the question about the no trade list and why Philadelphia was on it.
right. No question.
B-
Listen, Jaromir Jagr tried that probably the first 6-7 years of his career, and he
Right,
tried that on me once, and I didn't buy it. So,
right.
you know, yeah.
But it was funny. But he did talk. He was just like, no, it was just an arbitrary list, and I just had to pick 12 teams, and so whatever. But
Okay, that's not true though. We know
I
that that's
know.
not
That's the
true.
thing.
If that were the
But I
truth, he wouldn't have had to have been talked into coming.
Yep. That is also true, but I think it'll be fine. I'm not worried about
No, I
it.
mean that aspect of it is not anything worthy of talking about.
No, he mentioned, in terms of it being a contract year, that's not what he thinks about, but then he also says he knows he has 27 games to show
So
how
that he
he can
does think
play. So
about
he
it.
does think about it.
Yeah.
So that that was interesting as well. Yeah, so the new guys are here. Hopefully, we will be seeing both of them in the lineup
And you'll
in
get to
the
see him in
Flyers'
like
next
14
game.
days
Yep.
together.
Yep. I know. Seems like forever, which is a
It does.
good way to transition to our nemesis of the week, which we will talk about along with the other injury updates coming up next. You just realized your business needed to hire somebody yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy, just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on the other sites. Indeed sponsor jobs put your post at the top of the page and help you reach the right candidates faster. When you need the right hire, like yesterday, the pressure's on, and every day without the right person is a setback. That's exactly when Indeed sponsor jobs come in handy. They make sure your post is seen by the right candidates right now. You can speed up your hiring process with a $75 sponsored job credit. Just go to indeed.com/lockdown right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on Locked On Flyers. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring Indeed is all you need. All right, so injury updates that we haven't talked about yet. Now, Ryan Poehling, uh, he is skating non-contact at the moment. Skated a bunch in and around the last practice. That's good to see. I think these next 2 weeks off will be good. So maybe he'll be at 100% by the time that the break is over. Torts said specifically post game that they were really missing his speed and out there, and I concur.
But they're missing his speed because of the missing other guys with speed that they
Yep,
traded.
that is true.
We
That
saw
is
one of the other
also
guys
true.
score on a 2-on-1 with that other guy, and I was very happy for Morgan Frost.
Yeah, yeah. Now, Egor Zamula was skating as well. They said that it's going to take him then longer than just after the break to get back, but that the fact that he's out on the ice is
It's a
really
good sign.
good. Yeah, a really good sign. Torch talked about his improved puck moving skill over the course of the
Yeah, I think that's
season.
fair. I've noticed.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think
Just don't put him on the
they
power play. That's
right,
all we ask.
right. Yeah. But I do think his puck moving has improved and his zone exits have
Yeah.
improved
Yes.
over the course of the season. So hopefully he will pick up where he left off. Not too soon after the break is over. We talked about Rasmus Ristolainen. Owen Tippett is the big question mark
This is
right now.
shrouded in secrecy, and I don't understand it. I don't even know what to think anymore.
Yeah, it's a real puzzler here that there just seems to be no good clear indication what his prognosis is or path
Right.
to returning, which you want to talk about speed. There's your speed right
Right.
there,
Yeah.
right?
Oh yeah. I mean, that's missing.
So definitely missing for sure. So we'll keep track of all of that over the break as they let us know or not know. We'll see
Right.
there. Moving over to our nemesis of the week. Now, last week, I talked about Sam Ersson being a saint and did not deserve all of the missed opportunities on the offensive side of things because he's like doing his best out there and playing some really incredible goaltending.
Yeah.
And the Flyers offense needs to pick it up to support Sam Ersson in net, and I think that still stands,
Oh yeah, that still
especially
holds, man.
after that Pens game, and still true, absolutely true. You talked about the brand of Sports Illustrated and how they were throwing lavish parties around the Super Bowl, where they've kind of gutted what they once were. And if they have money to throw these parties, they could pay writers to write the good articles that they
Seems
used to.
logical.
Yeah. And the conclusion that we come to there is that private equity ruins everything. And I will say that every single day. But all of that being said, for me this week, I think the nemesis, and you kind of alluded to it at the top of the show, Russ, without having 14 days without NHL hockey here. It is like going from being super busy with a ton of games, 4 games in 7 days, so much happening and so quick, to it coming to a grinding halt
Shut off the
for an
spigot.
yeah, for like an extended period of time. It's not like the All-Star break, which was
No.
like 3 or 4 days, right?
Right.
Where you're like, "Oh, this is a nice breather," and then we get back into it.
Right.
This is a very long break. Now, like I said, I am going to Boston to cover those games for 4 nations, and that's gonna be great, and I'm sure it's gonna be some really fantastic hockey,
Be
but it's
interesting
not
to
the
see if you get the
Flyers.
little pastries that everybody gets at the Bruins game, if that will carry over to the Four Nations. I'm interested in that. You need to
Yeah, this
report
will
on
be
that.
my first time in the press
Right.
box
So
at
those
TD
are
Garden,
they have
so
these
I'm
mini
very
egg they have
excited.
these mini egg players that are great, but I don't know if
Alright.
that'll show up for the Four Nations. That's the
Well,
question.
I will be sure to report back to you
Yes.
on that as well, see what the media meals look like there. But yeah, like that is really hard going to a grinding halt for 2 weeks,
Yeah.
and it's kind of like having to do like when you take a vacation and you have to do like a ton of extra work before the vacation to prepare for the vacation. And then the vacation hits and then you come back and it's still a slog anyway. Like getting
Right.
back into the mindset is
Right.
hard.
Right.
So, yeah. So that's my nemesis this week is like not slowing down enough that I can't ramp back up when the games start again.
Right. Well, my nemesis is going to be, and I'm going to try and miss it, this Carl's Jr. commercial that's going to happen during the Super Bowl. Uh, those commercials were always bad for obvious reasons. And I'm not going to go into a whole rant on that. What I am going to say is if they think they can all of a sudden introduce a hangover burger, you've already lost. White Castle did that, and they will continue to do that just by being around and being open at 4 in the morning all the time, everywhere in a million cities. So if this is your great idea, a hangover burger, you've already lost. That's my opinion on that.
Yeah, we're recording this before the game,
Right.
so that should be noted. But yeah, I don't know. I kind of stopped paying attention to those ads to a large degree
Sometimes you
after.
can't, like, sometimes it's gonna come
Yeah,
and you don't have a chance to, like, walk out of the room or whatever, and so, yeah, I don't care about seeing
yeah,
it.
yeah. Well, I don't know.
Just like I don't care about the halftime show, but that's a whole other discussion.
Well, I'm hoping that Kendrick Lamar was great because I enjoy him tremendously.
No, I mean,
Anyway,
I get it. If you like them, so be it.
Yeah. Maybe we'll talk about that more on tomorrow's show.
Yeah.
But that will do it for today's show. Thanks so much for listening. Like I said, we will be back tomorrow to talk about the latest with the Flyers. Maybe that possible Scott Lawton trade with the Leafs that's hanging out there, as well as have Phantoms Tuesday and a preview of two of the Four Nations teams heading into that tournament. We always want to hear from you as well. So you can send in your mailbag questions or Flyers thoughts on any of our socials at Locked On Flyers, or you can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail.com. And you can comment over on our YouTube channel. I'm Rachel. I'm on Blue Sky and Twitter at rmiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ. I'm at Sportsology on the same socials, SPORTSOLOGY.
Thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen today. For your next listen, find Locked On Fantasy Hockey. Become a fantasy hockey expert. Get the edge over your league mates with daily tips from Steal and Flip. Find Locked On Fantasy Hockey on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Have a great day, everyone.